Hello everybody, welcome to this new video. In this one, I want to talk about the Micro Four Thirds system. Previously, we have all heard many discussions about the Micro Four Thirds system and the bigger sensor sizes out there in the market, and the main answer we have heard come out of those countless discussions is that, well, the bigger the sensor, the better the camera, and now most consumers are leaning towards the purchase of a full-frame camera instead of a cropped sensor. But is Micro Four Thirds really too small? Is it worth investing into Micro Four Thirds in 2019? Or should one skip the smaller sensors and get a full-frame camera instead? These are some questions consumers are asking themselves at the moment, so I wanted to make this video to give you an overview of the aspects you should be considering when deciding between a Micro Four Thirds camera or a bigger sensor size. As some of you might know, I have a lot of experience with Micro Four Thirds cameras. My camera for the last 2 years has been the Lumix GX80, and over the course of these 2 years I have come to find 4 main factors in which the Micro Four Thirds system wins against the other systems. So to answer the question if Micro Four Thirds is still worth investing in 2019, you just need to set your priorities and then rank the 4 factors that I'm going to give you now in your priorities to see how relevant they are for you. So let's start with the first factor, the size and weight of Micro Four Thirds cameras. This is probably the best known reason why a consumer would choose a Micro Four Thirds camera. My Lumix GX80 weighs 426 grams. When you add the 14 to 140mm lens, which weighs 265 grams, you have a 691 grams setup. On the other hand, let's say you're shooting with the Sony a7 III, which weighs 649 grams, and with the Tamron 28 to 75, which weighs 549 grams, that sums up to a 1.2 kilograms setup. Considering that both the Sony a7 III and the Tamron 28 to 75mm are both lightweight products in the full-frame world, the weight difference is still pretty nice actually. I often carry my GX80 with me, but with the 20mm f1.7, which makes the setup so tiny and lightweight. So for travelers or consumers looking for an everyday carry-along camera, Micro Four Thirds actually sounds very considerable. I recently was in Portugal and I chose to take the GX80 with me because I really liked the idea of that tiny lightweight setup. And it did a great job. If interested in the content I produced in Portugal, you can check out the links in the description. Or just my previous videos. Next, let's continue with factor 2, which is the in-body image stabilization, also known as IBIS. Due to the small size of the sensor, it has a lot of room to move around inside the camera body, which enables the Micro Four Thirds system to equip their cameras with incredible stabilization. Full-frame cameras, on the other hand, tried to make a small body, but still with their huge sensors, which are double the size of Micro Four Thirds sensors. Therefore, those sensors just don't have space to move around in the camera body. And they are steadily improving, but I do think that Micro Four Thirds is still and will still be for the next few years ahead of full-frame cameras when it comes to IBIS. Enough about that, let's continue with the third factor I appreciate in Micro Four Thirds, and that is the insane zoom capability in that tiny form factor. As you probably know, Micro Four Thirds cameras have a 2x crop due to the smaller sensor. Therefore, the image with a 25mm Micro Four Thirds lens will look like a full-frame 50mm lens. The appreciation of this strongly depends on what you shoot, of course, so for me, for example, I really like to get super tight shots in far distance, so therefore it actually suits me very well. Just a few days ago, I got these shots here from my balcony. Here's how far away I'm from the mountain. I was able to get these shots with my 14 to 140mm lens, which is equivalent to 280mm when fully zoomed. Imagine getting those shots with the Sony. That'd be quite a huge setup. But again, this totally depends on your preference. Some people like to shoot with huge setups. I, for example, wouldn't really mind having a huge setup in certain situations, but when out in the mountains, for example, like I was doing this winter, yeah, I quite appreciated to have a small setup. I wouldn't want to be running around with a huge camera then. Anyway, let's move on to the last point, which strongly separates Micro Four Thirds from the bigger sensor sizes, and that's the price. This one is very clear. Micro Four Thirds is just simply cheaper. Yeah, there's not much more to add to that, it's just cheaper. So those are the main 4 advantages Micro Four Thirds cameras have against the bigger sensor sizes, but to complete the comparison I should of course mention how full-frame cameras are superior to Micro Four Thirds cameras. Basically, full-frame cameras have an all-in-all better image quality. They can better cope with higher ISO, they have higher resolutions, and a shallower depth of field. So to answer the question whether it is still worth investing into the Micro Four Thirds system in 2019, absolutely. but not for everyone. This of course depends on what you shoot, where you shoot, and what features of a camera have high priority for you. So if you want to get into low-light photography and filmmaking, I would not advise you to get a Micro Four Thirds camera. But if you're on a budget and you just want to start creating no matter how, then Micro Four Thirds is a great choice. Anyway, that's it for this week. I hope you found some valuable information in this video. If so, leave a like, and if you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe, and I hope to see you again next week. Goodbye.